We start with this developing story. Cape Town law enforcement and residents of informal settlements have been clashing in Khayelitsha in the latest sign of tension over the city's housing crisis and illegal land occupation. Shacks, which are believed to have belonged to foreign nationals, were demolished in that township earlier. Let's go there live now. eNCA's Monique Morlock standing by. Monique, what's going on there now?
Temikile, from what I've heard from the residents staying in that informal settlement where shacks were demolished, it's not only the shacks of foreign nationals but also residents who have come from surrounding areas looking for a space to set up a structure to see them through the next couple of months. One resident who I spoke to, a woman, she says she moved here a couple of days ago because she heard that there is open space, that it could be a better alternative for her than staying in the Marikana informal settlement where her shack was constantly flooded. She says after her shack was demolished yesterday, she then quickly built it up again along with all of the other residents staying on that piece of land. I've heard from, or we received a statement from the City of Cape Town that it's not only in Khayelitsha and Mfuleni where land has been illegally occupied, but in other pockets of the Cape Metro as well, like Delft, Wallisdean, in Kraaifontein, Bloekombos. So it's not only here in Khayelitsha and in Mfuleni where officers have been trying to maintain law and order. Earlier when we were here, we saw a large group of people, hundreds of people from the one informal settlement between Mfuleni and Khayelitsha moving in the direction of Khayelitsha, which is behind me. I've heard from some private security officers on the ground that they actually had to turn back because apparently deeper in one section of the road, containers have been placed in the road to blockade the road. We've been advised not to go in there because cars are being stoned. We would still want to just speak to some residents just to hear what exactly their frustrations are, because we have heard from the residents who say they haven't been part of the actual protests or the clashes with police, but they are the ones who have been building up these shacks simply because they say they have no other alternative. They need shelter, and this is their best alternative for now.
And Monique, South Africa's housing crisis, I beg your pardon, is a well-documented story. In the Western Cape in particular, we've been speaking a lot about it in the last few months or so. This particular group of people whose shacks have been torn down today, when did they set up these structures and where did they come from?
As I mentioned, with the woman who I spoke to earlier, she's just one of hundreds of residents who have come from the surrounding area. She comes from the Marikana informal settlement, and she says that where she was staying was overcrowded. Her structure was constantly flooded, especially with this recent floodings that was the recent Cape storm that we've seen over the last couple of weeks. So she moved in just over this last week, moving onto that piece of land. According to the City of Cape Town, they believe that these, what they call invasions, are well orchestrated. They believe that these residents are being led by a certain leadership. We are hoping to speak to one community activist, Louisa Nkola, who had a meeting with City of Cape Town officials, and he was also on the scene a little earlier speaking to residents. Right now there are no set leaders yet for us to speak to just try to gauge what is the general mood of the residents, to try to gauge where is everyone from. We've heard some people being backyard dwellers who used to stay in Khayelitsha but on someone else's property, and they could no longer continue living there because the conditions were just too appalling, hence them moving onto a vacant piece of land along with hundreds of other residents. And from what I've heard from the residents, even if their shacks keep on getting demolished, they will continue building it up.
All right, Monique, final question then. You mentioned that there were some structures torn down as recently as yesterday, but now there is a desire by some of the people to rebuild. Do we expect more of that rebuilding to happen going into the evening tonight?
Yes, in fact, as my colleague Balungile and I were driving up and down and trying to see if there's a way for us to go in to speak to some residents, but we were advised not to go in as the situation is quite volatile and our car might get stoned. But we were told by residents they will continue rebuilding. We even saw vehicles filled with building supplies like corrugated iron sheets, and also poles, wooden poles, bedding, furniture being driven into the one section of land where the illegal occupants or the structures of the occupants have been demolished over the last couple of days. And these residents are adamant they will keep rebuilding because they simply say they have no other alternative.
Monique Morlock watching the developing story in Khayelitsha for now. Thank you.